There's no confusion at all about either of these programs, right? Actually, I think one of the good legislative extenders that would be really nice would be the 93009 tax credit awards for TCAP, although, again, that's going to require legislation to happen and probably won't happen. But I think that Ronnie, you were saying that 93011 didn't seem to make much sense. I think that just relates to the fiscal years of HUD, because they're all 930. I mean, it's 93009, 010, 11.
Yeah, but 12 is the end of the program, not 11. That's why I didn't get it, but anyway.
Whatever. I'm going to talk a little bit about what some of the states are doing, and of course, basically almost everything that the states have done heretofore, and there are not many states that have taken action, will need to be revised as a result of last week and the guidance from HUD and Treasury that we've been talking about so far with respect to the grants only situation, with respect to TCAP program having to have tax credits in it, and one of the issues that hasn't been raised so far, but that people need to think about, particularly for 07 and 08 deals. Not only do they have to be tax credit deals, but that means, of course, that they have to meet all of the tax credit requirements, namely the 10% test, the place in service dates, and so on. So that could pose even a greater problem for some of those deals. I'm going to talk pretty much in general terms about trends in what the states that have adopted or have come out with their plans are saying, and then we can get specific if people are interested in doing that. Generally speaking, well, there are only a few states, like I say, that have actually said this is our program and that have had it adopted either through the publication of a change in their qualified allocation plan, or in the case of California, the regulations which are incorporated into the QAP, or through adoption by their governing bodies, by the boards of their new programs. Because most states, although recognizing they're in sort of a conundrum because they're recognizing the need for quick action, they also recognize that they needed to wait for the guidance that was just forthcoming last week. So my suspicion is that in the next 10 days to 2 weeks that we'll see the more formalized plans of the majority of states. But the states that have put out things so far, generally speaking, have enumerated a list of principles by which they hope to achieve that encompass the principles of ERA, that is, of getting the money out quickly, getting it out in accordance with their already adopted QAPs, with their housing needs for their state and so on. But they oftentimes have stated exactly what those principles are. And then after stating the principles, they go on to state the priorities, and generally speaking, list them out by category. 07, 08, 9% deals. 07, 08, tax-exempt bond deals. 09, competitive deals. 09, 4% deals, and so on. And oftentimes they are publishing the amount of money that they anticipate will be available in each one of these separate pots, which is helpful, of course, to developers as they try to figure out what pot of money they're going to access. Most of the states that have given any indication of where they're going so far are permitting tax-exempt bond deals to apply for funds. There are a couple that are not, but hardly any that I know of so far. Alabama is an exception to that. They've said right from the beginning we're not going to allow tax-exempt bond deals to apply for any of the ARA funds. Several of the states envision holding multiple rounds for different types of projects that are applying for different pots of money. And so, for example, the state of Washington, where I recognize there are several people here from, is having 3 rounds. One for 09 9% deals, one for folks that need gap subsidy, for those that have investors or are hoping to have investors, and one for exchange funds for both 9% deals and 4% deals. That's going to be on a rolling basis with 2 different rolling time frames. Most of the states are also looking, or were until last Wednesday, I guess, were anticipating having both the TCAP funds and the exchange funds, to the extent that they're given to people, in the form of loans. Many of them in the form of 0% loans, but to be secured by either a mortgage or a deed of trust or whatever it's called in a particular state, and a regulatory agreement, and anticipating getting some of those funds back. Generally speaking, they were anticipated to be cash flow mortgages, but with repayment terms. So the whole deal about exchange funds now being grants only will have to be revisited by many of the states, quite frankly. Other things, states have had to figure out what kind of equity they are assuming for underwriting purposes, and how much filler, in effect, how much gap money they're going to be prepared to put into deals. And interestingly, states have had different reactions, in part probably due to different parts of the country, and talking with investors, or former investors, perhaps I should say, hopefully new investors, about what kind of money they might expect to get in deals. And in California, for example, 70 cents is where it's going to be underwritten, and one can apply for up to 15 cents, that is bringing it up to the 85 cents for 07 and 08 deals. You'll hear more about this tomorrow from Bill, I'm sure. And for 09 deals, the maximum is 82 cents. So the maximum that one could apply for, they're going to underwrite at 70 cents. The maximum you could apply for would be 12 cents. Just to give you an idea, that 70 cents figure is the same figure that Massachusetts is anticipating using. They haven't published that yet, but that's what they're anticipating. Although they're going to presume a lower amount for tax-exempt bond deals. In Washington, the minimum amount is 65 cents, and they're going to be willing to give a maximum subsidy of up to 25 cents. In Ohio, interestingly enough, a Midwestern state where you might think it would be very low, they're going to be looking at any investor that comes in below 75 cents, and if it is below that, they may require the deal to do an exchange rather than to subsidize it beyond that. So there are a variety of responses to how much equity is anticipated and how much gap filler states are willing to put into deals. Other things that might be of interest are that there are a couple of states that don't really intend to use the exchange program at this time. New York is probably the most notable one. Deb Van Amerongen, who runs the New York agency, went on record almost as soon as, probably February 18th, or almost as soon as the legislation was passed, saying that, they had enough investors in the state of New York, and they really just didn't anticipate having to use the exchange. Interestingly, and some of you probably know this, about a month or more ago, the state of New York actually made awards under TCAP for several hundred million dollars, something like $253 million. And I believe that they were of the belief that it was permissible to do this to prior year tax credit deals that turned in their allocation